Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for joining us for another segment of Health Professional Radio. In this segment, we'll be speaking with Dr. Robert Reisinger. He's joining us here as Chief Medical Officer, Neuroscience at BioXcel Therapeutics. It's a biopharmaceutical company that uses AI to identify drug targets and develop drugs in neuroscience and immuno-oncology. He's going to talk about the company's lead product, IGALMI. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. Robert Reisinger. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to meet you, Neil.
Well, of course, your position there at BioXcel Therapeutics as a CMO. Give us a brief look into your professional background, and then let's talk about this lead product.
I'm a neuropsychiatrist by training and did a mid-career move. I was a professor of psychiatry at the Medical College of Wisconsin, and moved there to industry. I was tired of treating one patient at a time, and I wanted to be able to help a larger number of patients and people over the course of my career. So I joined this company, BioXcel Therapeutics, when I heard about this product that they were proposing to develop. And I've been with the company since we went from first in human with this film, sublingual film, all the way through now the FDA approval.
Well, it's my understanding that this product targets agitation.
Correct. This is a treatment for acute episodes of agitation that are associated with schizophrenia or bipolar 1 or bipolar 2 disorder.
Talk a little bit about the prevalence of agitation in these conditions.
Agitation is, in fact, a very common condition. There are 16 million episodes a year treated in the institution, in an emergency room, for example. 16 million, and that is because patients have multiple episodes per year, 12, 17 even per patient. So not only do we know that's the sort of tip of the iceberg, patients do have episodes at home, and so we're studying potential use of IGALMI in the home setting where they're having episodes that often don't necessarily rise to the point where they're treated, but then we know this is where they come from when they show up in the emergency room 16 million times a year in the U.S.
Is it exactly like it sounds, just someone with these conditions being agitated for a period of time or almost on a constant basis? Is that why they need this type of treatment?
Yes. These patients with these illnesses often experience agitation, and it is typically, the technical term is psychomotor agitation, and it's manifest by both outward appearance, that is, the motor components. Patients are restless, they're often shouting, or hostile, potentially even aggressive. Internally, it's a very disruptive state. So they feel anxious, they feel ill at ease. They don't like this experience. They typically try everything they can to diminish or mitigate this agitation. They may try meditation, for example, at home. But if this just does not abate, often they can't sleep or they have great difficulty falling asleep, and they end up coming to the hospital. They can hurt themselves, they may trip, they may become aggressive and get into fights or arguments. And in the hospital, we know that healthcare providers are at the greatest risk of workplace injuries, often from patients with agitation. So we wanted to develop a new treatment for this. I've worked at many emergency rooms, inpatient units, treated many patients with agitation, and we wanted to develop a new option rather than the standard of care, which is basically an injection of an antipsychotic or a benzodiazepine. This tends to knock patients out, and it makes it impossible to figure out why they're agitated or what you can do to help them until they literally wake up and can interact again. So we wanted to provide a new treatment option that's a lot less invasive than, for example, an injection. We want to avoid any confrontation with the patients, and have a much preferable outcome where they can have a cooperative approach by offering them this sublingual film. Patients have control. They can have a choice between different treatments, and we think this is a better choice for patients and for providers in order to have, establish a rapport and want to return and seek help.
Are there any warning signs that you spoke about many, what I consider to be challenges in treating this agitation, but are there any warning signs? Is one of the challenges that these episodes can just manifest like right now after things have been relatively calm, or can these folks be extremely agitated without any outward symptoms as they attempt to cope with it on their own?
More typically, there are outward symptoms or objective symptoms of agitation. It's such a noxious condition that patients feel so tense and nervous that they fidget, they move around a lot, they shift their weight, they may sit in one chair and then move and sit in the very next chair. They literally can't sit still. It can be brought on by something as simple as a bad night of sleep. Or no sleep at all, or it could literally induce poor sleep, and in some cases patients have agitation and moving forward they can't sleep well, they can't even eat, they often don't drink properly, so they're dehydrated, so they present with a lot of problems that are associated with this agitation, and as you point out, for healthcare providers, especially in an emergency medicine setting or an inpatient unit, it's important to address this when it arises, when you see it building, if you will. And the sooner the better.
Your lead product, BioXcel 501, also known as IGALMI, is that the correct pronunciation of the trade name?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Recently approved. You said that you were with it throughout the FDA approval process as well. I think that happened April of last year. You say it's indicated for the treatment of agitation associated with schizophrenia, bipolar 1, 2. How exactly does it work, and is it being studied in any other agitation scenarios?
Well, it's a unique mechanism of action, unlike other medicines that we currently have. Typically, antipsychotics are used, or benzodiazepines, which affect memory. In this case, it is a medication called dexmedetomidine, the active ingredient. Dexmedetomidine has been used at very high doses in an IV form to essentially sedate patients for procedures and surgery, for example. And what we discovered and have built upon is the propensity of this to calm patients or decrease agitation, in fact, when you shut off the locus coeruleus. So this is an alpha-2 agonist. Alpha-2 receptors reside in the locus coeruleus. It shuts down norepinephrine release, norepinephrine or adrenaline. Some people may know is associated with a fight or flight reflex. The seat of the sympathetic nervous system is the locus coeruleus, and if you can sort of turn down that firing rate, you can decrease the release of adrenaline, and in general, you can see patients are having less and less symptoms of agitation over time. So we discovered as a company that the molecule is easily absorbed through the oral mucosa, and we wanted to deliver a very low dose over a longer period of time than what is used IV. And so that's the dose range that we came up with, and then demonstrated efficacy in our phase 1/2 trials with PK, and then immediately took doses that were effective to pivotal trials, one each, one in bipolar disorders and one in schizophrenia. And those were the trials that were the basis for approval by the FDA. Now, it is being studied, as you suggested, in other indications. So we're working on treating agitation associated with dementia or Alzheimer's type dementia specifically. We know that that's a major unmet need in the community. And in terms of treatments, there are very few alternatives. giving a benzodiazepine to a patient who has primarily memory problems is an issue in dementia. And IGALMI or BioXcel 501 does not impair a priori memory. Also, antipsychotics have a black box warning for the elderly associated with stroke and heart attacks, et cetera. And so this, we hope to be able to provide proof and obtain approval for the indication of agitation associated with Alzheimer's type dementia. But that work is ongoing. We have 2 pivotal trials ongoing right now, and we hope to complete at least one of those in the coming few months.
Well, Robert, if you would give our listeners a website where we can learn much more about the developments at BioXcel Therapeutics.
You can search our website, which is BioXcelTherapeutics.com. And there you can find both prescribing information and information about our ongoing trials.
Now, BioXcel, it's not Excel, it's XCEL, correct? BioXcelTherapeutics.com.
Correct.
Thank you for joining us here on Health Professional Radio. Lots of great information, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the developments with the Alzheimer's tests as well.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
You as well. You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. Robert Reisinger. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, download at Anchor, Spotify, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com, Health Professional Radio.